Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer, and today I have with me Sridhar Chityala ji as we talk and navigate our way through non-fungible tokens. NFTs, as they are called, most people identify them as that, have a very interesting history. To know more about this, let's first welcome our guest of the day, Sridhar Chityala ji. Sridhar ji, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar, and have a, what can I say? Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, and good day, wherever you are, depending on the time zone. So very excited to be here to talk about fungible and non-fungible tokens.
Sridhar ji, let me give you my limited understanding of how NFTs could be used. If somebody is an artist and then, they can have an original, they can have 5 people copying it and say, pass it off as the original. Now, once the artist gets the NFT for that painting, then he can say that this is the original, and then he can use the NFT to give it to somebody else and say, okay, now you have the NFT, you own this art. So it seems to me that NFTs are a way to uniquely establish one person as the owner of an asset that could be duplicated. That is how I understand it, Sridhar ji. This is my limited understanding. You can perhaps take us back to the time when, fungible tokens and non-fungible tokens, what is the basis for this, and so on and so forth, the good, the bad, and the ugly part of this. Take it away, sir.
Thank you. That's a lot of loaded question, in terms of answers. I don't know whether I'll cover all, but let me try. NFT is, as Sriji rightly pointed out, it's non-fungible. That means it is created only once. It cannot be duplicated. It cannot be counterfeited. It cannot be, multi-produced in many ways. I use the word, what you call, multiple copies of it cannot be produced and rendered or distributed for an economic outcome. So, historically, you have had this, one Mona Lisa art, and then you had several duplicates come in. So whosoever owns that Mona Lisa art, has that unique one Mona Lisa art, right? So therefore, if you take that analogy, then as Sriji rightly pointed out, then this whole evolution came in around content rights, and then how do you do distribution of digital content rights? So we had, the whole DRM, digital rights management evolution, which genesis in the art and the genesis in the music industry emanated. But yet the technology had not evolved to a model where you can actually produce this unique, only one-time usable kind of mechanism. So now you have the whole concept of crypto methodologies which can uniquely identify the holder of an asset. So in other words, let's say you put some number on a specific asset, then you create a token, then the token identifies the physical asset, and then you begin to, the token becomes the distribution vehicle. It's like a custody. You have a bond, the bond is sitting somewhere, then you have a custody to that asset by virtue of the token. So you have digitized the asset, you have made it into an NFT, and now you can begin to distribute it for an economic value. And so whosoever holds this asset then is the holder of that specific physical asset as well. Now, when you actually, so the token is the digitization of the asset, the distribution of the asset for an economic outcome. So you can now begin to create a marketplace and seamlessly begin to trade, etc. So I think that is the whole essence of the NFT model. And I think it's becoming popular, notwithstanding the fact in certain circles, which is raising some eyebrows and question marks, whether this is operating outside the traditional kind of an ecosystem of digitization of an asset and certification of that asset. And then when the economic activity or commerce activity takes place, is this all monitored, and is this all, is there a fair trade here happening?
Now, Sridharji, thanks for that introduction. My observation, sir, and this has got to do with more like cryptocurrency in general. If you remember, sir, Silk Road Exchange was the name of a place where, drug lords could basically use bitcoins as payments instead of getting the dollars that they would have accumulated in different places. And then FBI busted that by having somebody pose in as a buyer or a seller. I don't remember which one. And then they basically busted that Silk Road Exchange. It was the first time that people understood that there was an alternate form of currency being used. Now, NFT is also one of such things. What I am curious about, Sridharji, is whatever we are trying to say that NFT has this thing bad or this thing ugly, would that also not apply to other currencies such as Bitcoin?
Yeah. So let me just, what is the good, what is the bad, what is the ugly? Then I answer the question. What is the good? The good is that technology is available today to uniquely establish the legitimacy of a piece of an asset. That's the good part of it. It's not duplicatable. What is the bad part of it? The bad part of it is not about replication. It is about things happening outside the traditional system, because many of the venues where these things happen is not under a purview. What is the ugly part of it? The ugly part of it, it can be used to do things which are actually banned, from the perspective of law. So this is the good, the bad, and the ugly part of it. Now to your specific point around the question that you are raising around. Sorry, I lost my stream of thought. Can you please repeat, Sriji?
Oh, no. What I was trying to say, sir, was the presence of Bitcoin as being something that can be used. It came into the news only after that Silk Road Exchange was busted by the FBI, because what they found was, if you look at how drug lords were getting compensated, first they were actually trying to strap people with money and then take flights. And then US wisened up and said, no more than $10,000 per flight per person. And if it is more than that, you have to declare it. So that was closed. The next thing they tried to do was to try and use expensive paintings. And then they'll say that, and the painting could be actually stored in New York in a small place where it was outside the purview of American law. Very interesting things. I'm just telling things the way they were. Then somewhere somebody started wisening up to that and said, wait a minute, this is not going to work. Like you said, it's outside the purview of the system. And then they used Bitcoins as payment for perhaps bad stuff. And to break, and most of the stuff on Silk Road, I believe, was happening on a what I would call as a dark web. And people couldn't penetrate that until somebody like an FBI officer, who also posed as a trader, went in, found out what was going on, and they nabbed the guy. And I thought that was it. No more Bitcoin. This was about 7, 8, 9 years ago, I think, sir. Yeah. After that, so my point is, whatever we are saying is bad or ugly about NFT, does it also not apply to other cryptocurrencies?
It applies to traditional currencies, and it applies to non-traditional currencies like barter, and it equally applies to the digital currencies ranging from the cryptos to fiat token, cryptos to NFTs. So therefore, to say that this is good and this is bad, this is not. This dark web, or whatever you may want to call, or the Silk Road economic model, or the trading system, all these things exist today, okay? And they have been in existence for years. As a banker, I can say that fraud is endemic. The question is how much I can minimize the fraud and manage the risk. I never will say fraud, I can reduce it to zero. It's not possible. So people are trying to create this euphoria. Oh, NFT, it makes it, this, and this. So somebody has to tell me, you mean there's no counterfeit currency? Come to New York. Every taxi driver will tell you every other day he is stuck with a fake $50 or $100 note, right? Which is a common denomination today. I mean, how long the physical cash has been in existence? Okay, why did they not get rid of, it is so good. Why did they not get rid of it? No, you can't, because you accept it, you try to catch as much as possible. So I think NFTs will go through. I believe NFT is a great technology. At least we have found a mechanism by which I call the digital assets and digital contents can be managed. But as long as I think the task force, the Fed, even the anti-money laundering task force that has been set up is also saying, don't rush to conclusion and don't be overtly judgmental, but accept that there is the bad behavior. So just because there's a bad behavior, you don't basically condone all the good behavior that can occur using this piece of technology.
Thank you very much, Sridhar ji. And viewers, we are trying a new format. We are trying to come up with these short conversations, which won't take too much of your time, yet it is fact-filled and data-filled. And this is one such attempt. We would like you to like this thing. Also comment on what you found it good, what you found bad, what you found ugly about this particular format, because what we are trying to do is perhaps once a week, we will give these things for only members. We've been trying to see how to add value to our members. And again, we want to add only that thing which is of use to them, but not take too much of time. Time is something that hasn't changed in thousands of years. Unfortunately, there's only 24 hours a day. The sun is in a hurry to come back. So we just would appreciate to hear from you how this thing works out. And tomorrow we're going to have our weekly global insight with Sridhar Chityala ji, where we take a look at the week, what happened around the world. And as always, thanks for listening. And Sridhar ji, a pleasure having you again after a gap of a week, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar. Thank you so much. And I'll just conclude with one more observation. If you want to know your credit card is appearing somewhere else, there is a separate e-commerce ecosystem. Just go and search that ecosystem. Lo and behold, you may find your credit card being sold without you knowing about it, right? So therefore, NFT is probably a way ahead of that. And credit cards have been in existence, I don't know, for 3 decades, 4 decades. Okay.
Yes.
So on that note, I conclude by saying, hey, this is a great piece, but accept that there is a problem with it and deal with the problem rather than killing the solution. On that note, thank you so much, Sriji, for this opportunity, and happy to be here talking to you.
Thank you, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.